Hi students, Social Science, Chapter 3, Government, Part 2, page 15 and 16. The government frames laws and they must be obeyed by all citizens. Law and order is very important for the proper functioning of the government. This line I'll tell you children. For example, if you are in a traffic and there is traffic signal, then you have that is mandatory, everybody has to follow the traffic rules. What happens if the traffic light is not there, traffic signal is not there, if traffic police is not there, there will be a lot of chaos on the road. The same situation happens if the government, if the people do not follow the law and order. The government has the authority to make as well as implement laws. So the government has also the right that they can make the law and it has to be obeyed by the people. For example, the recent situation, the mask has become mandatory for everyone, and if you are fined, if you move around anywhere without mask, you are fined for it. Okay. Let us take an example. You must have a ticket while traveling by train. If you are caught traveling without a ticket, you have to either pay a penalty or go to jail. So it's a rule. If you are traveling without a ticket, children, and if you are caught, you have to pay the fine or you will go behind the bar. Even though the government may work lawfully, in case citizen feels that laws are not being executed properly, they have the right to raise their voice or even go to court. The court can order the government to take appropriate measures. So sometimes we feel that the government is not taking the proper act, they are not working properly. Then we have the voice, children. We are living in a democratic country, so we have the right to raise our voice and even go to the court if we find anything wrong, and the court can order the government to take the appropriate, the proper, suitable measure. So here is the meaning. Execute means to put into effect and appropriate means to suitable. Here the question is given, think why can one not use loudspeakers in public places after 10 o'clock in the night? Why can one not burst crackers on the roads? What would happen if there was no timetable in a school? So this same thing what I am talking you about, the traffic signal, children. If there is no timetable in the school, there will be chaos in the school. There will be clashes among the teachers. They will have problem that they will not come to know that which period they are supposed to take. Why are laws framed? Activity. Arrange a discussion. Why must one obey so many rules and regulations? So think about it, children, and find out the reason about it. You must have realized the organization responsible for the proper functioning of the country is known as government. Therefore, the government is an essential organ of a nation and has to perform various functions. So, government has several tasks, as I told you in the previous slide about the social and the economic problems, children. It has to be solved by the government. So, not only that, there are various kinds of. Recently, I'll tell you the example. The recent example I can tell you is about the coronavirus. Right now, the government is battling for the coronavirus. They are taking care of the patients. They are trying their level best to give the best medication to the people, the patient, those who are affected with the coronavirus. And on the one side, on the other side, you can see, you have heard in the newspaper about the Assam flood. So the government has to reach everywhere to protect the citizen of the country. The government frames acts and laws and ensure their proper execution. So when they frame any act or any law, they take a proper care that it is being executed properly. For example, if you can see, if any time when you call somebody on the phone, a lady is often telling you what is the use of the mask, what you have to do after touching something, how many times you have to wash your hands. This is all the awareness given by the government so that the people understand the seriousness about the corona, the covid-19, and they should how they can protect themselves by not affecting the corona virus. So these are the steps taken by the government. It sees to that the law is suitably interpreted and implemented also, and ensures that justice is done. So it has to be, the law is explained properly. So today all of a sudden one night they get up and say that today you have to wear the mask. Nobody is going to wear the mask, but once they give the awareness for what we have to wear the mask, for what we have to wash our hands 100 times, the reason behind is that only to protect ourselves. That is the reason the government keeps on ensuring, keep on telling you, keeps on giving awareness in the TV, in the mobile, anywhere you see. The only thing what they are doing is spreading awareness. The three arms of the governments are to legislate. Legislate. What is the work of the legislate? They impart, they are framing the laws. To execute and to impart justice. The arm, that arm, the body, the main body of the organ of the government, you can say, children, like we have the body part, no? Same way the government also need parts, different parts to work, because the country is so huge that it needs many people to work for it. The arm that frames law is known as legislature, which compromises the Vidhan Sabha. And that which executes the law is called the executive. The arm which works towards the implementation of justice is called the judiciary, and it takes action against that. Now you can see on the left hand side of your picture, children, I have put a picture of constitution. And under the constitution, what it is coming? Legislative. And under legislative, legislative is divided into parliament, and parliament is divided into Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. Then comes the executive. Executive, the one who is executive, children, that who executes the law, who implements the law, children, and it is generally done by the president and the ministry of the president. The third part is the judicial. The judicial comes that under the judicial, under judicial comes the Supreme Court. Now you see, the children, the power I have given, how they can handle this power. Separation of power is given here, children. How they work on this thing? They work separation of power. You can see judiciary power. Judiciary has the power to make judgment on law. So they have that power to make a judgment on the law. What is the work of legislator? A legislator has the power to make and change the law. So they have the power that they can make also, and they can change the law. And what is the work of the executive, children? They have the power to put laws into the action. So they can put the laws into action. Think, what are organs of the government? Why are they necessary? What would happen if there was no judiciary? India is a vast country made up of a union of different states. The constitution, so children, India is a country made up of union of different states. Here it wants to say that India has 28 states and 8 union territories, and this states and union territories become makes India. Now, so this is not possible, children. This big vast country can be handled by one government, so it has made a different level to work on it. The constitution has made India into a union of states for the smooth functioning of the administration. Thus India is a federal state. This means that the government functions at two levels, central and state level. Children, what is federal? Having or relating to a system of government in which several states form a unity but remain independent in internal affairs. See the next line, children. That means the government functions at two levels, central and state level. Here the example of central and state level is that central and state level. So how they work in central, and for example, when the government declared, the central government declared that there will be lockdown, complete lockdown from March 2nd, March 22nd, it was applicable for all the states and the union territories of India. So from March 22nd to till June 1st, there was a complete lockdown in all the states and the union territories of the country. And state level means, children, now the lockdown, they have eased the lockdown, they have unlocked it. Now when they have unlocked it, the central government has given the permission to unlock the state, unlock this situation. So now some state which is raising, or which the state which is having more number of active cases of COVID-19, they are still in the lockdown in order to They in order to see that the number should not decrease, so they are in a lockdown position. But other states, they are unlocked, they are free to move here and there. So this is the difference between the decision taken by the central and the state level. The government at the national level is called central or union government. It looks after the administration of the whole country. So the what is the work of the central government, children? It not only is central government has the work of looking after the whole country, and state level they have to look after only their own state. It look after the administration of the whole country. The government at the state level is called state government. We will study more about the organs of the state government here. The legislative body of an Indian state may have one or two houses. What is this legislative, children? The legislative has legislative that frames the law. So this in Indian state, children, there some states are having two houses and some are having one house. That I will show in the next slide. I'll explain you more briefly in the next slide. The lower house, children, remember this thing. The lower house is known as the legislative assembly and the upper house is known as the legislative council. This legislative assembly is known as the Vidhan Sabha and legislative council is known as the Vidhan Parishad. The governor is also a part of the state government. So after in the state government, everything comes under the governor. The state of Gujarat has only the lower house, that is the Vidhan Sabha. It does not have Vidhan Parishad. Most of the states do not have a legislative council. That I will teach you in the show you in the next slide. Now see the role, see the picture below given, children, on your left hand side, role of the Victorian Parliament. So children, before 1947, when our country was not free, we used to follow this thing. Today also we follow this Victorian Parliament only, but we have done somewhat amendments in that rules, and we have changed the rules rather than the Victorian Parliament. But since I did not get the same format, I am using this format to just give you a small understanding about the legislative council, how the legislative council, that is the Vidhan Parishad, works, and how the legislative assembly works. Here legislative council should have 40 members, means maximum they should have 40 members, and legislative assembly they should have 88 members. Remember children, this is the Victorian Parliament, this is not the Indian Parliament. So just for your understanding I have put it. They have a 4-year terms, that means they can be the member of that legislative council for 4 years, and afterwards again they have to apply for that. Legislative assembly also they have 4 years term. What is the work of legislative council? They can introduce bill. Legislative council can introduce bill. Legislative assembly also has the same right. They can introduce and they can pass the bill. They have the right that they can pass the bill. What is the work of legislative council? They review the bills passed by the legislative assembly. So if any kind of bill is passed from legislative assembly, they have the right to check that bill again and again. Thoroughly they can check it. And the next thing what legislative council can do is they can reject or amend bills on the review. So they have the right that they can review, they can reject it if they don't like the bill, if they find any fault or if they find any discrepancies in the bill, then they have the right, they can reject it. Or if they find it the bill is okay, then they can go do little bit amendment it and they can pass it to the legislative assembly. And legislative assembly has the right to form the government. Now see the state legislature, children, this is state legislature. Every state has its legislature. What is the work of legislature, children? I told you they frame the law. Some states have only one house, that is unicameral legislature or legislative assembly. Some states have two houses, that is bicameral legislature or legislative council, that is the upper house, and the legislative assembly, that is the lower house. Now state legislature is again divided into two parts, that is legislative council and legislative assembly. Legislative council, children, again remember, that is the upper house, and legislative assembly is the lower house. Legislative council is known as Vidhan Parishad and legislative assembly is known as the Vidhan Sabha. You can see the sitting arrangement of the Vidhan Parishad and the Vidhan Sabha, they are somewhat same. Children, this I have put a special slide to make you understand unicameral states, that is Vidhan Sabha. The states which are having only Vidhan Sabha, they are not having Vidhan Parishad. These are the 24 states. We are having, children, 28 states. Out of that, 24 states are having Vidhan Sabha, that is the legislative assembly. In that you can see Gujarat is also there. And bicameral states, children, what is bicameral states? Unicameral states means having a single chamber, single legislative chamber, that is only legislative assembly. And bicameral means having two legislative chambers, that is Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad, or you can say legislative assembly or legislative council. Let us see which are the bicameral states, the states that are having two chambers: Telangana, Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra, Jammu and Kashmir, and Karnataka. These are the seven states that are having bicameral, that is the legislative. So I hope, children, you understood the unicameral states and the bicameral. What is unicameral and bicameral, and which states comes under the bicameral? And now I have put a very good trick to remember the bicameral states, or the Vidhan Parishad and Vidhan Sabha, the state which are having both. That is Tu Ab Maja Kar. This word you can remember, Tu Ab Maja Kar. Tu you can remember as Telangana and Uttar Pradesh. Ab you can remember as Andhra Pradesh and Bihar. Maja you can remember as Maharashtra, Jammu and Kashmir. And Kar, that is Karnataka. This way you can remember the bicameral states. Legislative Assembly is known as Vidhan Sabha and Legislative Council is known as Vidhan Parishad. Now children, India has 28 states and 8 union territories. So you will ask me, you will have a doubt in your mind, what about the other states or union territories? It is not mentioned here. So for your kind information, children, Andaman and Nicobar, Lakshadweep, Diu Daman, and Haveli, sorry, Dadar and Nagar Haveli, Chandigarh. These are the union territories, children. They don't have Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad because they comes under the union territories, and it is the head of that union territories is the governor and the people working under the governor. So I hope this part is clear to you, children. This is the flow chart of the state government. The state government comes under the governor, and under the governor, who comes the legislative body, executive body, and the judiciary. Under the executive body comes the chief minister and the council of ministers. That means the other ministers, those who are working with the chief ministers. Legislative body is again divided, as I told you, in two parts, that is the legislative assembly and the legislative council, the Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad. Judiciary, high court, district and taluka courts. Now these are the question and answer, children, that I will give you in the last slide. Just check the last slide and you will get all the answers of this questions which is in the textbook. Things to know. Before a bill becomes a law, it undergoes 3 readings. Now it is very important to understand, children, what is this bill? Bill, you don't consider it as electricity bill or water bill or any stationary bill. This bill means it's one kind of an act or a law which has to go under 3 readings. Now I'll give you more briefly the example of bill. What is bill, children? For example, Article 370 and Article 34A, which was in Jammu and Kashmir, had been scrapped off. Scrapped off means removed with the decision of the government. Now Kashmir, like India, will follow the same rules and regulation. Before, Kashmir had a special place, children. Kashmir had a special act, that is the Act of 370 and 34A. Now the Indian government, that is one kind of a bill, that is known as a bill. So now government has taken the decision that it will be no more, as Kashmir is a part of India, it will also, that state also has to follow the same rule what other Indian citizens are following. Then another easy example I'll give you is about the GST. As I told you in the earliest slide, what is GST? Goods and service taxes. This GST bill, this is also one kind of a bill. It has been introduced for the process of easy taxation, for the convenience of the people who are doing the business. For them, this GST is introduced. So GST is also one kind of a bill. Now let us see what is this first reading, children. This first reading is done in Lok Sabha, and it is decided, the discussions regarding the principles underlying the bill is done by the MPs mean the member of parliament. So they will go through it. If they will find it suitable, they will, if they find it suitable, they move it further for the second reading. And if they find it that it is not okay, they can also reject this bill, and they have the right to amend the bill also. The second reading, children, it goes to the Rajya Sabha, and the member of the Rajya Sabha does the minute and the serious discussion on this bill, and then they also have the right to reject the bill and the amend, and also to amend the bill, and then they pass it for the third reading. This third reading goes to the president of the country, and the president of the country, after seeing the minute details, after going through the minute details of this bill, he pass it towards he pass it to the prime minister. If he or she wants to do any kinds of amendment, they can do it, he can do it, and then the bill becomes a law. So after the readings, the bill becomes a law. To become a member of Legislative Assembly, one must be an Indian citizen and must not be less than 25 years of age. According to the Constitution of India, the number of members in the Legislative Assembly must not exceed 500 and not be less than 60. So, as we learned about the Victorian rule, they were saying 40. Here it is 60, children. Maximum 60 members should be there, and it should not get more than 500. It should be up to 500. The governor is the first citizen of a state. So children, the governor is the first citizen of the state. Then who is the first citizen of the country India? Then children, the president is the first citizen of the country India. He or she is the constitutional head. The entire administration of the state runs in his or her name. Children, I am talking about the state. I am not talking about the country. Listen carefully. The governor is the one. Under him, the state runs. He or she functions as the representative of the president. So the governor works on the behalf or as the representative of the president. I hope children you understood this lesson. Here are the answers of that questions given on page number textbook on page number 16. This is on page number 16 textbook, children. Kindly copy down these answers in your notebook or on a paper and then stick it in your workbook, lesson number 3. We'll meet you soon in the next video. Till then, goodbye.